You swipe right, then left, then right again. Your thumb moves faster than your brain. In 3 minutes, you've rejected more potential partners than your ancestors met in an entire lifetime. That's not an exaggeration. For roughly 300,000 years of human existence, your ancestors lived in bands of about 25 to 50 people. The pool of available mates at any given time might have been 5, maybe 8, maybe fewer. There was no app, no bar, no carefully crafted profile picture. And yet, somehow those tiny groups of ancient humans managed to find partners, form bonds, and keep the species going for hundreds of thousands of years. The question is, how? Let's start with what attraction actually looked like 100,000 years ago. Forget six-pack abs. Forget symmetrical jawlines. The things that made someone desirable in a Pleistocene band had almost nothing to do with what modern culture tells you matters. Frank Marlowe, an anthropologist who spent years living among the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last true hunter-gatherer societies on Earth, found something striking about mate preferences. Hadza women consistently rated one quality above all others in a potential partner. Not height, not strength, not dominance, generosity. A man who shared meat after a hunt, a man who didn't hoard, a man who gave freely, even when resources were tight. That might sound like a modern romantic ideal. It wasn't. It was survival math. In a world without refrigerators, without storage, it once meant the exact opposite. Without any way to preserve food for more than a day or two, a generous partner was literally the difference between your children eating and your children starving. And men? What did ancient men find attractive? This is where it gets interesting. Robin Dunbar, the evolutionary psychologist at Oxford, best known for calculating that humans can maintain stable social relationships with roughly 150 people. A number now called Dunbar's number. Also studied what drives attraction in small-scale societies. His research points to something surprising. In environments where survival depends on cooperation, what men found most attractive wasn't youth or appearance in the way modern media obsesses over it. It was competence. A woman who could forage efficiently, who knew which plants were safe and which were toxic, who could keep a child alive through its first brutal years. She was the most sought-after partner in the group. So, how did two people in a band of 30 actually signal interest in each other? They couldn't mean exact opposite. They couldn't exactly send a text. This is where the archaeological record gets fascinating. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, researchers led by Christopher Henshelwood discovered small shell beads made from the shells of a sea snail called Nasarius crashinus. These beads were pierced, strung, and deliberately coated with red ochre, a pigment made from iron-rich rock ground into fine powder. They date to roughly 75,000 years ago. At Kavze Cave in Israel, for once a group of people, similar perforated shells have been found dating back over 100,000 years. These are among the oldest known pieces of personal ornamentation on Earth. And here's the thing about personal ornamentation. You don't make jewelry for yourself in a world where every hour of effort matters. You make it to signal something: status, skill, availability, identity. Stephen Kuhn and Mary Steiner. It once meant the exact opposite. Archaeologists at the University of Arizona have argued that these early beads functioned as a kind of social technology, a way of communicating group membership and individual quality without words. Think of it as the first dating profile. Not written in text, but worn on the body. A strand of carefully pierced shells told everyone around you that you had the patience, the fine motor skill, and the free time to create something purely symbolic. In a world of constant survival pressure, that was a powerful advertisement. But ornamentation was only one piece of it. It once meant the exact opposite. Let's reconstruct what courtship probably looked like on a typical evening 100,000 years ago. The sun has dropped below the horizon. The sky is deep orange, fading into purple. Your band, maybe 35 people, has gathered around a fire. The children are fed, The day's foraging is done, and for the first time since dawn, there's nothing urgent to do. This is when it happened. Polly Wiesner, an anthropologist at the University of Utah, spent years studying the Ju-Hawansi people of the Kalahari Desert and recording what they actually talked about around nighttime fires. Her findings, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, revealed something remarkable. Daytime conversations were dominated by practicalities: complaints, logistics, economic negotiations. But at night, around the fire, the tone shifted entirely. 81% of nighttime conversation was storytelling, myths, adventures, humor, people performing for each other. Picture that. You're sitting by a fire. The person you've been watching for weeks, the one who always brings back the best tubers, the one whose laugh cuts through the dark, is sitting 3 bodies away. And tonight they're telling a story. They're acting out a hunt, mimicking the animal, making the children shriek with laughter. And you're watching. And they know you're watching. That was the date. There was no private dinner, no walk on the beach, no isolation. Courtship in a band of ancient humans was almost entirely public. Everyone saw everything. Your mother saw it. Your potential partner's uncle saw it. The entire group was the audience, the chaperone, and the approval committee all at once. And that public nature wasn't a bug. It was the system. Sarah Hardy, a primatologist and anthropologist at UC Davis, has written extensively about what she calls cooperative breeding. The idea that humans evolved not to raise children as isolated couples, but as a network. Mothers, grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, and unrelated group members all contributed to child rearing. Her book, Mothers and Others, makes a compelling case that this cooperative model shaped everything about how humans form pair bonds. You didn't just choose a partner for yourself. It once meant the exact opposite. You chose a partner that your group could live with, because that partner was going to sleep 3 feet from your mother. They were going to share food with your cousin. They were once meant the exact opposite. They were going to help carry your sister's infant on a long march. The group's approval wasn't optional. It was the entire point. Here's the counterintuitive part. This system, the one with no privacy, no choice overload, no way to ghost someone and never see them again, may have produced something that modern dating struggles to replicate. Stability. When your partner was chosen when your partner was chosen partly by you and partly by the people who would hold your relationship together, there was a built-in support system from day one. When conflict arose, and it did, the archaeological and ethnographic records are clear about that. There were mediators, elders, relatives who had a stake in making things work. You couldn't just leave, not easily. But you also weren't alone in it. Now compare that to what you have. You have infinite choice. You can browse through 1,000 faces in an hour. You can talk to someone for weeks without ever hearing their voice. You can build an entire fantasy around a curated set of photographs and then feel devastated when the real person doesn't match. Studies by Jonathan Haidt and others have linked the explosion of choice in modern dating to rising rates of loneliness, decision fatigue, and dissatisfaction. The paradox of choice, a concept popularized by psychologist Barry Schwartz, suggests that the more options you have, the less satisfied you tend to be with whichever one you pick. Your ancestors never faced that problem. Not because their lives were better, but because the architecture of their social world made the decision smaller, more supported, and less lonely. There's one more thing worth knowing. Ancient humans didn't date within their own band forever. That would have been a genetic disaster. Genetic evidence and ethnographic analogy both suggest that when bands met at seasonal gatherings, at water sources, at shared hunting grounds, young people from different groups paired off. These interband unions were strategic. They created alliances. They expanded kinship networks. They turned strangers into family. A marriage wasn't just a romance. It was a peace treaty. It was a trade agreement. It was a survival pact sealed with a human bond. You open the app again. Another face, another bio, another split-second judgment. Your thumb moves and you feel almost nothing. Somewhere deep in your brain, in circuits shaped by firelight and small bands and the weight of a shell bead necklace against bare skin, something ancient is still searching. Not for a perfect profile. Not for the best option out of thousands. Just for some option out of thousands. Just for someone generous. Someone competent. Someone the people you love can live with. Someone who tells good stories by the fire. You swipe right. It once meant the exact opposite, but what you're really looking for hasn't changed in 100,000 years.